It's dialogue time. Hello and welcome to this very special presentation. We have Dr. Dani of Dr. Dani's school, the Fellowship of 13 Sign Astrology and all your other projects, and the author of just released Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, the astrology they don't want you to see. I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself, please, in your own words, Dr. Dani.
Michael, thank you so much for having me on for your dialogue series. It's so thoughtful of you to have me here and to be a part of your community as well. When I first came into constellational astrology, I actually saw you before because of an OBS video that you had created. Yeah. Wow. I was like, this is really interesting. I need to learn how to, and you taught me a little bit of OBS. And then when I realized that you were also an astrologer, I was like, oh, okay, this is great. Yeah. Yep. And then we crossed paths again in the Sidereal Revolution. A precursor chapter to
it was a good chapter. It was a good chapter.
Yes.
But it's a past chapter. And just to touch on OBS, that's broadcaster software, open broadcaster software, studio software, which we use to make YouTube videos. Yeah. So I'm hearing that had a little catalytic role in helping you take the steps. Yeah. Wow.
Of course you did. I guess beautiful. I never shared that with you in our private conversations, but yes.
Okay, though.
So I am very grateful and so happy to be here. And so I am Dr. Dani. I'm a physician astrologer. I have been practicing medicine, I guess, since I got into medical school, which was around 2004. I was a little bit older when I started medical school. I was about 30. My prior work before that, I was a theater major and had done some acting and then realized that, there really wasn't a great way to support myself or my future goals with that. So I studied computer technology for about 5 years, and I got into the whole telecom bubble game. Realized that was not what I was.
Was that about the time of the .com?
Like, yeah, 99, 2000.
Yeah, cool.
And then I decided in 2000 that, and it was just it was like spirit and I didn't even have a word for it at the time, but I just had a divine inspiration that I had to go back to school to be a doctor. And so I sunk my teeth in and I never let go. And I wake up circa 2012 and I'm done with residency, and now I'm a doctor, and now I have to figure out where I want to practice. So I moved to Texas, and I had been practicing in a clinic with my own practice for about 12 years. About, 3 or 4 years before that, I had gotten the itch again to do something else. Yeah. And I began earnestly studying astrology, always been tangentially into it, and realized it was not aligned with the sky whatsoever. And again, I had a new passion I could sink my teeth into. So I did, I learned, I studied, and through that process found that there was this, like, not just knowledge level refinement. I knew how to gather knowledge and integrate it, but more of a soul level refinement and integration. The lessons that I learned through astrology, which started off as a simple curiosity. Yeah. I'm on labor and delivery, and the babies are coming at certain times of day. They're coming at certain times of the month more often. Mercury retrograde seems to be this thing, let's just dive in and study it. And I've always been sort of an astronomer or scientist kind of first, but the astrology just added this beautiful, creative and artistic, psychological almost energy to it that was just profoundly exciting and wonderful. And I think overall it made me a better doctor.
Yes.
It made me a better human. And it also gave me the courage to actually put my face on the YouTube and to be out there. I literally had no social media before that. I didn't even look at the Rate Your Doctor websites. I just refused to look. I was like, I can't look. I don't want to see any bad comments.
Sure. And then now you have a YouTube channel talking some pretty cutting edge, bleeding edge stuff to the world. How's that gone? Have you had have anyone from your old life encountered old life, like from prior phases, have they encountered you and been like, Dani, I can't believe it.
Well, when I did a podcast with Archaics, one of the people in their community says, "I think she delivered my baby."
Wow, that's 6
interesting.
degrees.
And yeah, I do believe that my community here, there are people here that know that I have a YouTube channel. I don't know that they're necessarily into what I'm into. I mean, if you think about the big scheme of things, this is a pretty moderately sized city. I still work. I still do the doctoring as sort of the main, I guess, fuel for the engine of everything that I have around me. And I do still get some satisfaction from the work, but it's different now. It's not an everyday like 9 to 5 thing. And then sometimes you're there late, or sometimes you have to spend the night. Now I do a 24-hour shift 7 times a month. And it's like funneling all of the time that I would spend in the office on the phone, worrying about patients and staff and things like that. Now it's just all focused in this one time section. And when I leave, I don't have to take it home. So it's a lot nicer. It's allowed me to get more creative and to develop more into the topics that interest me. My channel actually just started off as showing off and like the art that I was doing.
Oh, cool.
During COVID, like these little pyramids. I don't know. I've shown these to people before.
That's right.
If you go way back,
I remember that. I honestly had forgotten. I remember that phase of your talking about organ pyramids, and they still see that you have a great collection on your shelf behind you.
I think that's why this space. This is my little she cave.
Yeah.
She shed or whatever.
Yeah.
This is my space. I think that's why it's so sacred and protected. There's all this orgonite around me.
Oh yeah. Well, let's turn to the book, because I feel like you've really just kind of in the last year or so really spread your wings and just kind of took off and gave a lot of other people a lot of support. And I say that in regard to your school. You have a school, and we'll get to that for the people who aren't familiar. We'll get to that later. But I want to turn right now to the book that you just published. 2 days ago this was released?
Yes. In ebook format and the audiobook format.
Right, which you read.
I read it. I read it. It's 7 hours of Dr. Dani reading you this story, this book.
I bet. I haven't heard that version, but I got into the EPUB. I want to thank you. for the advanced copy. I have some editing notes. I'll send them to you as we get there. But I started to skim it, and I did successfully skim it once, and I got it. But in the skimming, I noticed something, that there was a lot of dense information, especially in the first half of the book, which kind of the building up to this kind of the arc of the book goes. It's almost like an extended introduction, or an introduction that then like unfolds into like an exploration of context.
Right, because I think if you're going to study astrology, you need to understand that this is not some whimsical new age practice. This is not spiritual woo-woo. This is based on astronomy. And how could something zillions of miles away affect you here on Earth? Right? There is an explanation for that. A scientific explanation. When you go to the edge of physics, and I have all these physics books. The ones that explain physics, I like to read their material, starting from Carl Sagan all the way back in the day to the modern ones now, Brian Cox and those folks. And when you listen to with their work in fascination, you can go further. So when they end their story to where the normal knowing public would be able to grasp and consume this information, I'm like, I need to know more about that. I need to know more about this fourth dimension. I need to know about the math. I need to know about what it actually looks like, why things work. And there is an actual explanation with these theories about why these influences would work. And I thought it would be nice to take some time to explain that as simply as I could without, kind of overwhelming the reader. But it might be still hard.
No, that's wonderful. That's and are you talking about your approach to the book generally, or the time you want to spend today? Is that I want to
just the information that's in the book, because
Yes.
when you want to understand astrology, the mechanism behind it, I think it's useful. And so we do touch on topics in those first 8 chapters about the fourth dimension, about nonlinear time, about spooky experiences, about elevating your consciousness from physical 3D hardness to the ethereal. Is that even possible? What does that look like?
Right. And that's what I think. I think we're going to just go right and put a pin in the bullseye of what I liked most about the book, is that it deals with astrology itself. I mean, of course, it deals with it from the level of science and being based in astronomy, but it takes it a level, maybe even a couple levels beyond that, in that I see it addressing astrology as a tool or a key to the cage of, I think ego gets so overused, and I have no problem with ego. Ego is not a cage for everyone, but for some people it is. It's the cage of what people call the matrix, the reality matrix, which is actually, there's a lot here to unpack. How do I say this? No, I'm going to condense it because I have an idea and it's worth expressing. But I mean, there's of course complex philosophies with layers of reality.
Yeah, you said once that reality is too complex to be useful. So
yeah, so let's pretend, let's just simplify and just kind of say reality like that's a thing, and we can talk about astrology as a kind of key to get out of this sort of labyrinthine matrix that we all find ourselves in. That's all I want to say for now. Maybe we'll unpack that as we go, but I think of astrology in very Uranian terms myself, which is as a tool for liberation. And you see, liberation from what? Well, anything like it's, and to some extent it does get to ego, the structure of ego. We're trapped in it, but that is for so many of us the matrix. It's one and the same with the matrix of reality. And you talk about the disconnect and in ways that diminish the disconnect from reality. And in reading the book, I found myself not just academically and intellectually and mentally connected, but that it was catalyzing some kind of like alchemy on a deeper level than thought, which goes to akasha, which goes to ether, which goes to this sort of like cosmic fascia beyond the physical, beyond the mental, which is like brain stuff, right to consciousness. Like, how do we perceive in dreams? How do we perceive when we're out of our body? What is that? When we're out of our body, time can become very dilated and weird. And all of this, I'm saying, way too much in a spiral fashion. This isn't how I like to engage in dialogue, Dani, but your book's so rich and it takes so much and it brings it home. Not only does it do that, but the overarching trajectory is one that catalyzes freedom.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that was intentional because I know you on a little bit of a personal basis. Do you want to?
I feel like something very insidious, maybe not on purpose, but has certainly usurped our ability to project the truth, to project the real goodness, and instead project this cage. Okay. And I think what happened to astrology is it got frozen in time. Got frozen in time 2,000 years ago for our benefit, for our downfall. It has yet to be determined.
Sure.
But by staying locked in that space and not evolving with the procession, with the cosmos, there's this deeper rift that's occurring, and you see it everywhere. You see it in how people take care of themselves. You see it in how people perceive other people. You see it in how they perceive themselves. And what's proof to me is that when someone comes home to this, because I'm living proof, you're living proof, is assisting others to come home to this knowledge, they literally, their life is altered.
Yeah. Oh,
in the most wonderful ways. They have a sovereignty about them, a freedom about them. COVID could come and go and it won't affect them. Wars can come and go and it won't affect them. The stock market could crash. It won't affect them anymore.
Not fundamentally, not in the
Right.
same way that they were invested in that before. And it's not just a narrative; it's real. Like freedom is real. It's
Yeah.
you can't explain it to someone who doesn't have a taste, at least some taste, and expect them to get it. But it's not an abstraction. So there are books and informational keys, right? There are systems that are keys, but there's attitudinal ways of looking at things that are also keys. And I say they're keys because the the whole, like, let's use the matrix metaphor. You know, a
Okay.
lot of people feel that there's somehow um that there's something going on with reality, that it's not really quite what it seems.
Mhm.
I mean, even the materialists they have to acknowledge that, like, the material world now, because of quantum physics and developments in physics, they have to acknowledge that it's really a sort of standing waveform, a kind of sort of solid state hologram that
Mhm.
but they take it to energy, right? That's they go, oh well, it's not physical now, it's not real, it's an energy thing. And then we can go to mind, because you certainly have no shyness about bringing in hermetic wisdom, dharma wisdom, and the idea that the universe is mental, but
Yeah.
you take it a step deeper to raw consciousness. Now, maybe I take it that step deeper because I'm steeped in it. I have to walk that back. You didn't do that. I did that, Danny. I'm steeped in a Vedic system in which the five elements are like earth, the physical; water, the feeling and
Yeah.
emotional; fire, the raw life force; air is the mental. And then in this model, akasha, or the fifth element, is like not mental but consciousness.
Right. The ether,
The
the
ether. Yeah,
quantum foam, which actually exists,
it
and
does. Yeah.
things spontaneously pop in and out of existence at light speed. And
Uh,
when a thought form comes in and interacts with this field begins to oscillate. Okay. That oscillation creates a vibration
mm,
out into the field. And if you are at this vibration and that thought form is at this vibration, you're going to miss each other. But if you're both vibrating, that's the law of attraction. That's the magnetism,
right, right, right.
right?
Yes.
So thoughts the electricity, emotions the magnetism. It is all vibration. And when you can see it in your mind's eye like that, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're so much more careful with your own energy.
And I think what you're bringing is
Yeah.
that you have seen it and you're able to put into words in this book a little bit of the raw mojo, what gives it the power to help people find their way out of that. Because you can take the four elements that most people work with, and just on the physical level, like, you're still trapped within the senses and thinking about what you experience in the senses and through even your subtle senses. It You have to separate how things seem. And the easiest way to do this is for people who have had, like, near death experience,
Mhm.
lucid dreaming, or other experiences on the fringe of consciousness where things get very strange and they're finding themselves perceiving, but not through eyes, ears, nose, mouth,
Right.
apparatus
Through
of the
knowing.
physical
Yeah.
senses, but directly through consciousness. I am a how do you say, a point of consciousness? I am like
A
I mean,
fractal. A
a
fractal of the divinity. Yeah.
oh, how do you even talk about it? But but some people, I mean, honestly, in, like, in certain cultures, people who go past those thresholds and have very strange experiences of reality out of the body, or who can do these things, they're considered special teachers or special cases in any regard.
Mhm.
What is it, like, what is it that you feel is in Ophiuchus, like, beyond just the symbolic, but what is it that that encapsulates that akasha or ether for you that stands out about Ophiuchus? Like, why does that, has that come? Because I think it does too. Not maybe, like, I might have a different model and different
Yeah. So
ideas.
why has Ophiuchus completely
Yeah, why does
changed
it
my whole?
stand for? Right. Why is it the
Yeah.
symbol? Because you go to this in your book,
Yeah.
but maybe you could, like, really briefly, or just say
Yeah.
your,
And I think I was actually talking to ChatGPT about this morning. I was like, how else can I say this?
wow.
You know, there is a fire inside of all of us. There is a dragon. A lot of us identify with it as a physical energy. It's a creative force. In some cases and situations, it makes babies. And in many other situations, it creates all the stuff around it, manifests for you. And I think the only thing that we know instinctually is the side of that makes babies. There's a whole nother realm of it that when you can sit in meditation and visualize the knowledge, the all infinite source knowing, combining with the physical matter, the thought forms, the emotions, the energies, everything that is physically you, when you bring those two together in the heart, you become this being. I mean, you're already this being of light, but if you can see it and be aware of it, then you can see that in others too. You can see that that's the light of spirit, the knowledge and creation itself coming together, making boundaries, creating matter. It's co-creation, it's copulation of like earth and thought. That's what we are.
Yeah, it's a direct connection. It's a sensual, blissful connection with the universe. It's
And
truly like
that's the Scorpio Ophiuchus dynamic.
Yeah.
For me, when you just have Scorpio, you've got the wounding, the darkness, the secrets, the stuff you don't want to talk about, and then you keep moving. Whereas if you stop here in Scorpio and you just look up a little bit,
right,
there's this whole spiritual divine connection that just makes you see that in everyone.
Right.
And I don't know if it's because of its physical location, like at the galactic center, that may have something to do with it. Like if we're speaking about science, that there's some kind of higher dimensional, higher vibrational light that comes through there that awakens the physical body to the spirituality.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think when you're talking about black holes, you could get a lot weirder than light.
Yeah.
Still makes sense. You're dealing with gamma rays, amazing spectrum. Yeah.
So I think there's some sort of special energy with that part of the sky. I certainly, when I just sit with the stars and let them sing to me, as I call it, I'm drawn to that space. I like to go to places where there's no light pollution at the time of year on a new moon, where I can see it in its full glory. When you look at the history of observations of that part of the sky, cultures are rich with all sorts of spiritual journeys, profound transformations, fantastical creatures, dragons, serpents and snakes and winged creatures that of fire. There's a fire there, and that's the divine spark that could be source if we think about it like that.
I think of it as a conduit to source. I think of it is a mystery that leads to well, I think of ourselves as beings, like as sort of a microcosm, macrocosm of the earth. I think that's a pretty common idea, and we can look at the earth and life, and even down to cells, and you can take it out to the sun and to galaxies.
Sure, yeah.
And I think at the black hole, at the middle of the scaling of the law of correspondence, or perhaps we should say that things reflect each other at scale. You can say it a lot of ways. Yeah.
It's so interesting about the scale that we're talking about. Like everyone can perceive it. You have the galaxies, and then you have the atoms, and they have a similar morphology, and that scaling, that fractal ability, is the direct result of a holographic mathematics. So that's what you get. You get these levels of scalability when
Mhm.
you do the math to describe the universe as a
Mhm.
hologram.
Mhm.
Okay. And so where is
Yeah,
it projecting from?
right,
Well, it's projecting from the singularity inside of you, that black
right,
hole
right,
space, that
right,
peace and source that you are.
right, right. That every iota of the cosmos is actually at scale containing access to the information of the
Yep.
whole cosmos in holographic form. So when we have very dense condensed manifestations of energy, something like a super massive black hole, I think of it as a powerful conduit, but I try not to fix things or be absolute about things or be like, oh, it's definitely like this. I try to think of it more broadly and abstractly, even just to the extent that it could be different things to different people, or it could have different meanings within different cultures. Or
Do you know where the theory of the holographic principle was actually born from studying the dynamics of black holes and what happens on the surface of a black hole?
Oh, wow.
So there's a concept called entropy. So black holes are so foreign. They're the aliens in this space, when I actually think that they are us. And Nassim Haramein also has a geometric way to look at the universe and the subatomic particles. And when he does that, he realizes that the proton centers in every single atom have the energy of the entire universe. By bringing all of this together, yes.
So we have protons
the
and
old
neutrons.
axiom,
Okay.
so the old axiom, as
Right.
above, so below, so within, so without, it starts with you, couldn't be more true if you think about it like this, because your very atoms, if we are to consider ourselves fractals, you are literally the divine all.
Right. It's
Just
like
how do
the
you see
map.
yourself?
Right. Please go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just exciting. It's like, wow, yeah.
So there's a lot of scientists and spiritualists and yogis and young people that are just kind of spontaneously, young people too, are spontaneously coming to these realizations. It's fascinating. And so I just think that right now is the time for people to really start understanding this information, to start talking about it scientifically as if it were a technology and no longer some sort of weird mystical art, where you live on the fringes of intellectual discourse and scientific discourse, or worse, killed or silenced like they've done before. I think that age is over. I think we're very much on the cusp of that age where it's okay to talk about these things.
I do too.
Yeah. Ophiuchus is the key to that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Thanks. That was the question that started that sort of vein of conversation, and it's good to get back, because this all goes there's so many interconnected nodes and directions we can go from any given point when we talk about especially just the patterns broadly and things like Akasha and ether and yeah, go ahead, say.
Well, I mean, you think about the opposite side of the zodiac, right? You get this mirror image, and we live in an inverted mirror. Our projection of what we think we are is an inverted mirror when it comes back to us.
Okay.
Because vision is actually flipped upside down in your brain. Yeah.
I get. That's cool.
So across the sky, you've got Orion and Ophiuchus. They're opposing each other, but Ophiuchus gets to put his foot in the zodiac, and Orion, for some reason, does not. He does not get to put his sword in there. He's constantly chasing the rabbit parallel to it. Whereas Ophiuchus has reached down to the ground where the scorpions and the snakes are, pulled the snake up off its belly, and is holding it. Holding it up to be regarded as a powerful creature, as a representative of what this divine realm is, whatever it is.
Right. I want to identify something that you're pointing to there, just to reiterate it. The character of Orion in our sidereal mythology is chasing. He's not. He's pursuing. He's doing hunting, but what's in his hand is like his club, his shield, or his sword. Ophiuchus has already accomplished and is displaying a sort of, shall we say, victory or mastery or
Yes.
yeah. So, and that I think is very, 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 very interesting.
Right. And so having the zodiac frozen in time, we focus on the journey of Orion and his complete cycles over and over and over. People talk about the soul trap. They talk about being trapped here. They talk about not having their free will. And I think it's because we're a little bit misaligned. We don't look at the sky anymore, do we? I mean, we've replaced our, I say we, in search of gold, we've lost diamonds because we are focused down in the valley and all the shiny bright lights and then the television screens. We don't even know where the moon is sometimes.
Yeah.
And that disconnection, I think that's where our sickness is as a collective.
Well, if you have a system, an organic system, and it's functioning in healthy ways, that means there's respiration, that means there's fluid circulation, that means, and what happens if one part of that organism is what happens if that stops respirating and fluidly circulating? What if it stagnates? What do we call that in medicine, doctor? What do we call that condition? What does it lead to?
Oh, it leads to abscess and
cancer and
infection
and ultimately these can become systemic problems capable of threatening the system itself.
Right.
And I think that when we look at just worldview generally, we look at modern worldview, we have so many facets of that jewel. But like, if we take it back to the roots of science, which you do so well in your book and indicate the importance of astrology to the foundations, right? That this so much of what we think arose from doing medicine or doing farming or doing math came from what? No, it actually directly connected to the stars. And when we take that we can think of that as like the top facet of a great jewel, like like the crown facet. And when you distort that, I think you do a terrible disservice to any organism caught up in that cultural worldview. And I don't get interested. I try not to, in whether it was intentional or convenient or at first accidental and then co-opted. We'll never know. These people act in great secret, and that's, we'll just never know. But in the end, I agree with you 100% that astrology can be that lens out, a true lens, instead of a distorted funhouse kind of effect.
Well, why did we stare at the stars? Why did we do that? Well, it tracked time for us. Time is so important. It's how we perceive movement. If we didn't have time, things would not move. And so that's a fundamental aspect of three-dimensional reality. And if you think fractally, things move very quickly up here, but they move very slowly up there. And so what if you could take a moment, a single second of your time right here on Earth, project it billions of miles away, and spread it on a huge, glorious screen in front of you?
Right. It's beautiful.
What if you could do that?
It's beautiful.
That's precisely
what it is.
Astrology does.
That's where we live. I know.
And humans connected to their clock. I mean, because whenever the sky changes, calendars change, civilizations change. We see this. We have documented evidence of this. When the sky changes, civilization changes, people change. But what we have done in recent millennia is we have given ourselves clocks that are not connected to that for the first time since our collective existence.
Yeah, that we know of.
For good or bad.
Yeah.
Now we have this predicament where, I don't know about you, but I walk around going, we don't belong here. This reality we have created is not in resonance with the natural environment whatsoever. If I go outside to my backyard, into this Texas field right here without clothes, food, or water, for 6 hours, I will be I would literally become very ill because I would be bitten by things. The plants
yeah.
would poison me.
Yeah.
The sun would burn me. I would
Sure.
get dehydrated. I would probably have to be hospitalized just for 6 hours.
Yeah.
That's not right. Whereas the birds can fly around and the fish can swim in the ocean. We have to pile things around us in order to feel safe here.
It's true. Humans are a very strange organism that way. And I don't think it inheres in our organism, but I think it inheres partially in our biology. You know, we don't have the same protective stuff that animals do. We didn't have like claws that rend or teeth to like tear. It's like we walk with our exposed bellies, you know, like we walk straight up with our bellies exposed. I mean, that's bizarre. Everything in nature protects its vulnerables. And you know, we're so head oriented that we have forgotten the heart, just generally speaking, in culture broadly. But I don't think that there's something wrong with us for those qualities. I think that those vulnerabilities are exploited against us by.
But I also, you don't feel that disconnect? Like there's a disconnect between our environment and how we are with it.
Well, there is that.
It may or may not have to do with astrology, but you know,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, having that disresonance with the true calendar,
right?
And focusing on, you know, what is it, Monday at 11 o'clock, and we're in the sign of Taurus. I'm not connected whatsoever to the fact that the sun is sitting in Aries right now.
Right, and those energies do reflect at wherever scale you are. Yeah, I thought you were pointing to something different. There's no need to explain it or walk it back, but I do hear what you're saying, and I think, yeah, I think that being human comes with a lot of exploitable, you know, there's like dopamine exploits and just to name, that's the basis of addictive behavior, is all the dopamine exploits that is, I mean, you know, you and I met through Facebook, if you want to talk about dopamine exploits. I mean, just, you know, live in this culture that like, once that disconnect is there and people are like thinking about things, conceptualizing this as like, oh, it's Pisces season. You know, because right now when we're talking, the sun and moon just met in Aries, but for a lot of people, they're disconnected from that, everything that represents everything the celestial energies represent. And I think that while it may have come from wherever for whatever reason, in the meantime, like while we were on our way here, that was getting used against us, like very, very ruthlessly, very savagely, to create layers of distortion that would just lead to the structure of culture as we know it today in the modern world. I think it served the interest groups very well, the vested interest groups that adopted it and chose to manipulate it. And I do see this sort of reclamation of astronomy, this movement within astrology to like reclaim as a little bit of a cheeky act, a little bit of an act of rebellion. Like, you know, if you go back to Ptolemy and the construction of Christianity, you know, in the Nicaea and like that whole Roman, like Ptolemy was a Roman, like that's what they were up to. They were always, well, they at that time were about Euro takeover. That was just their whole agenda. And so everything got co-opted into that, you know. And now we have
astrology was one is and has been one of the most powerful tools, and they were able to say, well, they studied it so they could figure out how to leverage that control.
Yeah,
and I can promise you that those that still have that control use this energy. They use this in some form or fashion.
Oh, sure. Oh, I think you're saying they use the real skies.
They use the real sky. They use astrology. They use both systems.
They do. It's like tropical on the outside for the people, and then amongst themselves sidereal. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's always been that way with fraternities it's always been that way with fraternities. When it's even that way in indigenous communities, some of my favorite First Nations people, they'll never tell, like, outsiders or like anthropologists or people with notebooks who are like, they'll never tell them the right oral history. They'll never tell them the true story. This has nothing to do with whiteness or like, it's just, these Hopi, all they have is each other. And so people get the idea, like, oh, their history is really disjointed. But if you go and talk to Hopi, they have an oral history that goes back like 3 world ages to the first world age. They remember, their stories go that far back, but they don't tell them to outsiders. It's the same way with everyone, Dani. So do you see what I'm saying? Whether you're like a conspiratorial power group in Rome with interests in, global domination, or whether you're the most like humblest, hardworking, indigenous group that I personally know of, the same things apply. Secrecy, it's like a Pluto principle or something. So I'm not pushing back on what you're saying, but I'm not necessarily like, I'm sort of taking it in a different direction, that like this happens naturally everywhere that I see. People protect their interests through presenting one thing to outsiders and keeping as much of the truth to themselves. And I don't think it's moralistic. I don't get excited about whether it's good or evil. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not judging it one way or the other. I'm just saying that there is a control system.
Oh yeah.
They use this system. They use the technology, the spiritual technology that is around it. It's not magic. And because they have also, had access to your programming when you were in school, you have been taught to be an easy giver of that energy, to further facilitate the growth and the continuation of these systems and these structures. And when you study Ophiuchus, and the reason I had to preface it, and the reason I had to take you through this whole other life journey in this book, is so that you are ready for this, because this is a breaking down of what everything you thought to be true.
Yeah.
That you have no power, that you have no control, that you have a predestined path.
That's it.
When you learn that that's not true, you go through everything. You go through the whole gamut.
Oh yeah.
You go through the whole like different levels of shadow work and solitude and fasting and journaling and all the internal work that goes with that in order to directly deal with a reality that is no longer real for you.
Right. It's very jarring.
Right?
It's very jarring.
Where do you put that? You can call that Scorpio, but I don't think it is. That's Pisces for me. That's when that happens. That's the breaking point. That's when a soul and how a soul wakes up is through Pisces.
Yeah.
Because you throw off all of the identity, you throw off all of the ego to see what's left, to see what's truly there.
Right.
And when that is the brightest light you can shine, that is the strongest sovereignty you can project out into the field, where literally nothing can tell you what to do anymore, unless you want them to.
Right. Sure. Unless you feel it's aligned and you choose to adopt.
So there's no need to like even be a victim. Like, oh, I've been tricked my whole life and I've been using tropical astrology and now I'm in this other. And have I been serving my clients in the wrong way? I mean, I've watched people go through this. I'm like, no, you use the tool that you thought was the best one at the time. I
agree completely. And it was actually, it's completely appropriate for people on that path. It's actually, I don't see anything wrong with much of anything from the point of view of like the great big picture. But there's so much there that is Ophiuchus has become a symbol of this reclamation of natural relationship to reality and this freedom from, and I think that like grinds like institutional gears, just what it stands for and symbolizes, even more than them having to acknowledge that, oh, it did cross the ecliptic in Ptolemy's time and they chose to omit it. Like honestly, the institutions can deal with that, but they don't know what to do with people who are actually taking power into their own hands and becoming, in a stepwise fashion, liberated from all the bullshit.
Well, the way I see it is when you do have that realization in your life, if you were born with it, great. But if you have that waking up process while you are in this awareness, it's my theory that it is your last lifetime.
Cool.
That you're there. You've gone through the final crucible, the final requirement, so to speak. You've graduated. Sure. And so for all of those that do that, congratulations. Even if you don't study Ophiuchus yet, but you've realized you've gone through that awakening process, you're there, and you need to just trust what unfolds for you. And so that's why for me, I developed that last incarnation journey. Like, this is it. You're no longer Aries to Pisces. You die, you come back. 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 Now you get to see what the entire soul does on this last journey. What's a little bit different? How does that change? And what does that final ascension look like? And to me, the final ascension is conscious physical disembodiment, conscious death, the pure ecstasy of that last breath. That's it.
I think you're onto something really interesting, because so my framework, my so much of my mental, even psychological framework goes to Shiva Tantra. So I just want to say that in the idea of the Kundalini mysteries, which are which Ophiuchus is very symbolic of, that the idea is one of how do I say this briefly? These are very high concept ideas, and I don't want to make them mystical. I want to make them accessible. One of the goals of the spiritual path, and something that even my teacher's teacher accomplished, and people go to his gravesite to like be in the waves of this, is that he stabilized his consciousness at death, or at the point of merging with the void, and just kind of hung out. And you can go to where his like old shoes were, his old padukas at his shrine, his gravesite shrine in India, and like just bathe in the bliss waves, because it's connected to him, and he is like suspended in like an orgone,
like some fourth dimensional state.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think of it in terms of a number of dimensions, but I would think of the sort of death being a sort of exit door to dimensional consciousness. And then outside that, in the process of what would ordinarily be rebirth, that there's a point, it's just a point of like dissolution, where most people aren't even conscious. So you have to have incredible, you have to be able to sustain and maintain consciousness in the face of being like, you have to be sort of conscious to the very edge of consciousness itself. And then to have agency to say, but hold on, I want to stay here. You have to have resolved any karmas in this view.
Sure.
You have to have resolved any karmas that would be pulling you to around the wheel of existence towards your next life. And having done that, and having made that choice, you can stabilize great bliss.
Can I say that just one of the things that I learned through this process was how to kind of conceptualize for myself the term karma.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of times people get hung up on it as being a bad thing.
Dreadful word. Terrible word.
It's not a bad thing. It just means an action that you must do.
That's it.
And so if you are called back here because you feel like you want to help people, if you're called back here because you feel like you wanted to have kids and you didn't, or if you're called back here because you'd rather experience life as a man instead of a woman, or vice versa, that's a karma.
It is. Anything that you desire,
and it's not
really
bad.
Powerfully. No, karma's not bad. It comes with all this dogma and all this dreadful ideas about it. But the Buddha too, he taught people how to make this their last life, to resolve all their extant karmas and stabilize their consciousness, to rejoin the source. That was his first teachings. And then later he realized, like, well, if I just teach everyone how to like jump ship, then everyone here is just going to suffer, and then we'll never like solve suffering. So he developed an even kind of a really big idea, like, let's balance like cosmic suffering, and we can't do that if everyone jumps ship. So he developed the bodhisattva ideal, the bodhisattva path of and I guess at like a pure bodhisattva level, you're still working to resolve like all the bullshit that keeps you stuck in existence and trapped and having to do anything. Like, please, freedom is not having to do anything. So if we look at the bodhisattva path, it's like processing all that, but the desire to help beings remains. Like the desire to just go and jump ship and be like, I'm out of here, see y'all later.
Even that's a
or
karma.
not. Even that is, it even is a karma. And to actually make anything your very last time anywhere is understood as both entirely possible and very difficult. And I'll throw a third one in there too, for shits and giggles, which is questionably responsible. In that, does it really speak to the connectedness that we have between ourselves and other suffering beings? If we've resolved our own problems, in other words, are we then we feel like, oh, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm off the wheel. But to the Buddha, then at that point, he was like, well, actually the work just begins, because everyone else's problems are your problems too.
Right.
And that's a lot to take on, and I'm just going to leave that there. But it's these thoughts and questions have always chased, like, I mean, you and I in this conversation are like tackling topics and issues that like world teachers have like come to terms with. So this isn't like unimportant stuff, but it's like so vast and so abstract that I don't know how helpful it is.
Well, I think it can be helpful. You can assess yourself in your own quiet moments. Like, just imagine a moment where there's absolutely nothing to do. There's absolutely nothing to do. Where are you? How do you feel when that's happening? Are you bored? Are you restless? Are you grateful? Are you ecstatic? How do you feel when you're in that space where you have nothing? Me, I currently still feel very restless. There's still work to do, even though there's an awakening going on here.
I know that feeling.
And so contentment and boredom, it's the same thing. It just depends on where you sit, and you can assess yourself. So if there's still work to do for you, for whoever, for whatever you believe in, whatever you have an attachment or and there's nothing wrong with attachment.
No.
If you have that and you still feel bored in that space where there's nothing to do, then go do it.
Yeah, that's simple. I love that. People make all kind of abstract complications out of their spiritual journey. I see it all the time, and I hung out a lot with those people, the Shaivas and the Buddhists, and me now as sort of like less connected to all that. I just try to be a decent person. Regardless of what people around me are doing or what governments who think they're over me are doing, or, just try and stay connected to the earth and to my fellow life forms in a constructive way, in a non-destructive way. It's like, don't be a dick. Just be a decent, that's my religion. I can't, it's not very non-dogmatic. I don't have time for a lot of abstract philosophy about the nature of this or that. That's nice. I go there. But I know so many people, Dani, they have such developed ideas about the universe and how it works. And if you ask them for 5 minutes to just not be an asshole, couldn't do it. If you know what I mean?
Well, I think what happens is, anytime your mind is searching for something, like just say you're a young person and you've gotten all the schooling and you're about to go, you get to make your first choice. Well, what do you want to learn next? They go out and they learn it. And then all of a sudden, that's the truth. That's the freaking truth. Now, a lot of people will go through the dissolution of their previous life programming and whatever, and come into the new age energy with the same sort of karmic pattern, right? They're desiring to find the truth. If whatever resonates with them at that time is the truth, then it is the only truth. There can be no other truth.
Right.
So let me tell you how to eat. Let me tell you who to pray to. Let me tell you how if you follow this program, you're going to get rich quick kind of thing.
It's a very Christian artifact. They lay it on, people lay it on to new age and metaphysical stuff too. And then
Yeah, but for me, you can believe whatever you want. Like, I am not trying to tell anybody what to believe, how to believe it. It's very personal. My angels are your demons.
That's it.
You know, and but those angels guide me and tell me not to be a dick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and your angels are judging me and shutting me down. So who's, you know, who's worth their angel here?
I hear you. I hear you. It is in so many cases a matter of perspective. And yet don't be a dick seems so universal. You know, you never hear about people who walk the spiritual path and who climb to the top of the mountain and who come back down from the mountain to the people and then what do? Like kick puppies? Like never. You never hear you don't hear that story. Those people they didn't make the journey. If you make the journey, then it's you know, you connect the head and the heart, you connect the mind and the body, you connect the inner reality and the outer reality. And from that point, it's actually pretty hard to be a dick. It's hard to have a good, like, healthy relationship with the cosmos and your fellow humans, and then like out of that space act like in like toxic ways. But
yeah, I think Ophiuchus is the archetype of this awakening, the awakening. You know, like the awakening that so many people have. I think it's accelerated over the decades. I believe that, like, what the Law of One group said, that there was a first wave, or maybe it was Dolores Cannon. There's like a first wave.
Okay.
And then there, you know, those 80-year-old hippies that are out there now, you know, they held space. They made it okay to be a little bit weird and to explore these things. And as a result, people in my age group and even younger and your age group are like, okay, let's just do this. Let's just explore this and study this. And it's safe to talk about it. And, you know, so we're not going to get hung for talking about 13, you know. Magic is actually just technology we don't understand. So there's no reason to fear it or burn people at the stake for it or slit their throat for it. You know, it doesn't necessarily move the practice or the energy of worship out of your way either.
No. There's room for all that, I think.
Yeah.
I think
it doesn't move anybody's religion aside. You can be a Catholic. You can be I'll probably get stoned for that one, but you know, you could be. In fact, the Jewish people actually do use astrology.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. Jewish astrology is
what their holidays are centered around.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that there's a lot of ways to approach things just in a natural, like a non-dogmatic, and I think that's the future, actually, is a kind of like, I think of all the heavy dogmatic paths as like a lot of them being artifacts of the past that I see changing as we move into a more, just something that's more clearly becoming something that's more obviously becoming like the next, like long age. Like if you ask a lot of people, we're in a shift. We're in a shift of ages. From, I think, the Maya looked at it as the 2012 date was a long, the beginning of a long new era and the end of a long old one. To the order of about 5,200 years. Yeah. And
they were tracking the solstice. The winter solstice in December, when they created their calendar, December 21st or whatever we would call it, the solstice.
Yeah.
Okay. That particular day was somewhere in Capricorn, in the stars of Capricorn.
Yeah.
And over the millennia, they would pass that knowledge down to the apprentice astrologer shamans, astronomy astrologer shaman, doctor healers. And they would say, tell your children, as my grandfathers have told me, that this point moves very, very, very slowly. And they watch it move and they see it move. And so they were able to, with this ancient passed on knowledge, calculate almost precisely when that alignment would happen with the galactic center.
Right. They did that long ago.
That's what 2012 was. That's what that is. I mean, they were off a few degrees.
Yeah, it seems that they were, but they weren't really. It wasn't like midnight on December 21st.
Right.
It wasn't exact, but they had the right idea, and it marked a progression from one long world age, which if we take 5,000 year period of time, 5,000 year plus back, you get roughly this like Babylon world system, the Babylon to
Right.
Rome to colonization to like modern globalization, that whole narrative.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because it seems like I don't know, the Mayans didn't leave a lot of clues about what's next, but the other indigenous peoples, they do, and they're very hopeful about the next world age, that we'll get it right, that humanity will actually exist in harmony with nature and with the spirit of creation in the universe, that that we'll actually have like peace on earth and goodwill towards each other.
Mhm.
And that actually is a more like universal thing. You even see it reflected in like the Christian stuff, where they're like
Mhm.
1,000 years of peace, if you take that as a metaphor. So it's a very exciting time, and to be on the edges of this is
Why we're all here.
oh,
That's
it
why
is.
we're all here.
It's a daily thrill. I love it. And I mean, I have already made up my mind that these, this administration, whoever they are, whatever they are, I'm not interested in their, it's just not relevant to me whether I'll continue and pursue astrology, how they feel about it, because I think we are out of the woods as far as like people being persecuted for esoteric studies, but they did think that in Nazi Germany right before they outlawed astrology and made everyone very unhappy. So we
Mm.
don't. I mean, I don't know where we are or what we're doing on that timeline, because we're past 2012, and the old order is like white knuckling. They're just white knuckling it. They won't give up the power stick.
Well, I can tell you precisely why it's happening.
Oh, go for it.
So you have this collective of divine fractals of source that were all focusing on this one energy. And bit by bit, these souls have come down and tapped one on the head, changed their world and their paradigm forever. And they reacted to it, expressed it, spoke it, moved through it, and touched other souls around them. And it spreads, it ripples. That inner work that people do, it spreads outward, it ripples outward, and eventually there's just not enough interest in whatever they're doing over there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at the phenomenon of, and this is such a funny, perfect example of the "Let's Go Brandon" chant.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
That was basically a F you Biden chant, but some reporter thought they heard "Let's Go Brandon," and so it swept around the country like wildfire. That the energy of people not believing what was being told to them on the screens was evident in the mass of people getting together and going, "Let's go Brandon," which actually meant, F you, President Biden. So that was a perfect example of how the interest, despite the force, despite the postulations and trying to manipulate people are just not having it.
Yeah.
So even though if you think you're not powerful enough to do that kind of change, you literally are.
Oh, that's it. That's what, and I encourage everyone to just throw your last fuck out. Just don't give it, because there's just bigger things than like whether I mean, like even people are like, oh, but what if you die, or what if you're in prison? Or like, that's not what this is about. This is about evolution and pushing things beyond the boundaries of the known, which are so dismal. So I what you were saying and what I was going to say are actually just dovetail at the end there, which is, don't let anyone make you afraid to explore the truth or discover what is the genuine nature of your relationship to the universe. That you can't let them interrupt that, not even because they'll try, they'll, or they might, but they have historically. And yeah, it's something that I think if some people may have to come to terms with. You and I live in the United States, and we're seeing a encroaching new regime that seems pretty serious on changing the structure of power. But I don't see a dangerous future for astrologers. Not like there was in the 30s in Germany, but
no, I think I just see it as a technology, and it can enhance how you do things. And I'm still sort of struggling with the whole idea of tropical, trying to be neutral about it, not being upset about it or excited about it. At the very least, neutral about it.
Yeah.
But it's still a source of frustration for me, because I will see entrepreneurs without a large, level of experience with astrology saying, "Oh, it's a Taurus new moon. Come and take my abundance class."
Oh yeah.
I'm like, really?
You just can't do anything about that.
Yeah,
That's been going on forever, And I mean, you can only hope that some people get into that abundance class and get abundant, get interested in astrology and take it deeper. Take it.
That's one way to look at it.
You have to. I mean, otherwise you have to have a channel you have to have a pipeline to, like a tropical to sidereal pipeline, you have to be able, like, if you shut tropicalists out, like, your world sucks, you represent the system, this oppression of no, it could all be true, but I think that there's a sort of, like you mentioned before, the compassion it takes to deal with the kind of someone's collapsing worldview and all of the stress that it takes when your connection to the universe gets unraveled. Oh my God, that can be profoundly stressful for people. And I just think that the more we're able to hold space as a community for those tropical people who are willing to make those brave leaps and take those steps, the more we'll all benefit.
I do speak very strongly about the tropical zodiac wheel, but I just want to make it clear that I'm not disparaging tropical astrologers at all.
Oh, no.
No. I consider all those people colleagues in knowledge with their own opinions. And I've always told people too, it's not the astrology, it's the astrologer, right?
Yeah, I've seen very, very, very helpful and competent tropical astrology that I would put on the level of even like some like the average sidereal astrology that I see, like in its effectiveness in catalyzing people to their highest potentials and truest selves.
Right.
But there's always that working around the inaccuracy of it. There's always and the really competent tropicalists I've seen, I can think of Mark Jones chiefly, who has a theory that every sign is actually about going back to the sign before and wrapping up the lessons of the last sign. Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, you need to reinterpret it so it matches. Yes, that helps people. That will help people.
I never asked him, do you think that happens just because it's sidereal and you're looking at like what's really happening? I never put that to him, but we don't talk about
no, that is a thing. I think that's actually a phenomenon, because I have a very popular little book that went around about a century ago that describes the signs almost like they're a sign behind.
Yeah.
So it describes Leo as a little bit more nurturing, like Cancer. It describes Cancer as being just a bit more sarcastic and mental, and Gemini being a lot more sort of stubborn and stuck, so it's like it has shifted it, and they were perceptive of that 100 years ago. So
yeah, I would actually, ironically, I would call that good astrology. They are thinking outside the box, just not far enough outside the box, if you ask me.
Right, like change the actual sky? No.
But it's so hard to go. It's so hard. It's almost arrogant to think that you're going to pick up and do what makes sense to you that you're going to swim upstream in the face of all these fish, and they're all laughing at you, and you're just, it's it's a lot to ask. I think it's a lot to ask for people to make that journey upstream
Yeah.
against the flow of institutional thought and to say, I'm going to think about this differently. So I think your book serves as a beacon and a manual to approach this in ways of
That's what I'm
personal
hoping.
empowerment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like you're not trying to beat people over the head with your message, but you're trying to share what you like. You're trying to leave the breadcrumbs that got you out of the woods.
Yep.
And I love that it comes through like that.
Yeah. So once your mind's blown with part one, then we take you through what this bodhisattva or last incarnation or cosmic healer's journey.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? From Scorpio clockwise through Ophiuchus. So you have your first death in Scorpio, and then you're not even a human body yet. You're just an individuated soul. So you experience that energetic death as source has a thought and you become the fractal. There's pain there. There's a separation. And then you come down here and you get to look through the book of Libra. What do I want to learn? What actions do I want to take? Ooh, I like that family. I'm going to be with them. Or, ooh, the last time I was here, I forgot to do that. So then you set up your stars and then you embody in Virgo. So the mother energy is very much tied into that Virgo, that energy into matter into energy kind of thing. And I've even done readings where I've seen 3 generations of women and I've gotten to read their Virgos. It's super interesting. Birth is like Virgo to Leo. Leo is the child, the that bright spark of creation that doesn't know that it's a human yet, and it's all taken care of, and it still has its powers, and it's just fully expressing itself. It doesn't really care. And then like Cancer is where that veil drops, right? Where you're all of a sudden you're all alone, and you have to kind of like figure out that emotional meaning for you. Gemini is the programming. Learn these basic steps so that you don't hurt yourself or anybody while you're here. There's your learning. Taurus, you get to try it out. You get to experiment a little bit. You get through the senses. You get to taste, touch, smell, feel, hear, sing, laugh, dance, copulate, whatever you want to do. That's Taurus. You get to experience and taste it all and decide and refine yourself to what you like. And then Aries is the I am, right? It doesn't change. Like you're still the I am there. You've identified, you know who you are as a human. But there's always that little something in the background. Something's coming, right? Your whole world's about to shatter. Like everything that you learned is now not true. And a lot of times it can be an easy process, but for many, many people, it starts with a tremendous shift, a loss, a sickness, a change in the way that they live their life. And I think COVID was a Pisces moment for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I was wondering if you were going to take that model to the Pisces stage and correlate it with like a spiritual awakening.
This is the spiritual 100%.
Whatever happens to people, we got to get the memo. Like it's bigger than this. It's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And
then Aquarius is where you find your I make friends now by saying, "Oh, I remember you from a past life," or or I'll just hug them and I'll be like, "Nice to see you again," It's finding that soul tribe. And I don't know if the lucky ones, some people, their organic family is not part of that. Mm-hmm. They literally have to go through that trial of separating from their family, from their roots in order to realize that Aquarian energy. And then Capricorn is literally manifestation, creating something that lasts, a legacy. And then Sagittarius is where it's heaven on earth. You realize you didn't have to go through all that, but the journey was part of the, kind of like the Wizard of Oz. And then Ophiuchus is that final death, that ascension, the leaving. Almost like it's not a wheel anymore. It's more like a highway in and a highway out.
Sure. It could be. Yeah, that's beautiful.
And then, of course, after you do the journey, if you have planets in Ophiuchus, there's, probably 1,000 to 2,000 words on each planet in Ophiuchus. So if you've got, Sun in Ophiuchus, there's 2 or 3 pages there where you can kind of dive into what that energy might feel like for you, just based on what I've read and the people I've talked to and the clients I've had. And we do Sun, we do Moon, we do nodes, we do Mercury and Venus and Mars and Chiron and Pluto and Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, all those guys, I take them through Ophiuchus and what that energy means. And then also, if you have Ophiuchus, but maybe no planets, but it's, say, in your third house, there's a nice description of that. A lot of people ask me that, well, what if I don't have any planets? What does
I
it
love
mean?
that. I love that so much, because I get that. I think all people who see clients in an astrological context get that question. Well, what about my empty houses? Oh, if Ophiuchus is empty, does it mean I don't have an angle to this mystery? Like, no.
It's just going to manifest in this part of your life.
Yeah, it's like a
in
10th house.
kind of weird paradoxical ways, because there's paradox. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a Neptune in Ophiuchus in my midheaven in my 10th house, which is pretty textbook for an astrologer of my sort of like characteristics. That fits.
Yeah. I was just going to say, yeah, no, recalling those parts of the book. That's totally you. Yeah, my husband's a 10th house Ophiuchus.
Cool.
And it's very much it's almost like a spiritual confidant. They don't even have to try for people to be magnetized to them, but they prefer not to be like in the spotlight necessarily.
Oh, that's the Taurus I see, you know.
That could be that too. But
I think in my case, I relate to that when it comes to like, well, there's a lot of reasons in my chart.
Here's the paradox at the 10th house, though, in Ophiuchus. It's not so much as you being the grand, Neptunian Ophiuchus wizard for all to see. It's more like when people look at you, you're going to literally mirror that back at them.
Right. That's the
and
public.
If they can't handle it, then that's what they're working on.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I found that with my husband. He provides that, God, almost mirror, sacred sounding board, if you will. Even when I said I really want to start taking, astrology to the next level and taking on clients and being a person he said, why? And I said, okay, well, let me answer that.
Yeah.
That pushing me, challenging me almost.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you can do too.
Maybe, yeah. I think you're right. I think it also gives me a little bit of an advantage when it comes to talking about difficult material with clients, because I'm not hiding. Like, not only is Scorpio Ophiuchus 10th house for me, but I have Sun, Mercury, Pluto North Node, Venus, and Uranus. This is just the main planets in 8th house. In 8th house. So,
which is Ophiuchus's house.
Yes, yeah. Right. Thank you. So for me, I think when it comes to connecting with people on difficult material, I'm able to be honest, and I've received this feedback from a lot of clients. I'm just able to be honest about challenging stuff in ways that don't make it weird or try to hide some of it, or I'm not trying to hide it from myself. I'm not dealing with what it is, but I'm not like making a big deal out of it, because I just live in the 8th house. I'm like, that's where my sun is how I organize my life, is like magically, spiritually. So it doesn't,
right. And Neptune doesn't really judge either. Like,
no, it doesn't.
Yeah,
That's it. So I feel that while it can represent a little bit challenging and cutting feedback, it also has the ability to kind of meet you like without a lot of I would use the word neurosis, baggage. Yes, excellent language. That a lot of other kind of 10th house like therapeutic or professional dynamics or relationship dynamics. I think that the astrological dynamic can go to that stuff so fast. It can go to 8th house or the weird, and so I find that the great advantage that it gives me, very natural advantage that I don't have to focus on much, is just comfort with the uncomfortable. Like I don't mind sitting with that stuff. I'm kind of zen. Like we train in that, we just sit with discomfort. And
when people get over that vulnerability, that Ophiuchans in 10th house are so good at saying, okay, I see it. If you don't want to be in that space, if you don't want to feel uncomfortable, like So that vulnerability allows a great level of trust too, I think, with someone with your placement. I have Ophiuchus in the 7th house.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And I've got my North Node there. My Rahu is there.
Okay.
There's not a lot of resources out there for Rahu and Ophiuchus. I don't know, maybe ChatGPT could tell you too, but this is very much an intensity, because if you think of Rahu and Ketu, the head of the snake, the tail of the snake, right? Ketu's the tail. Ketu's your spirituality. It's kind of what you already are really, really comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so as a result of it being North Node being in Ophiuchus, my South Node is in Taurus.
Yeah.
So it's, the physical stuff, the sensual stuff. I've been there, done that. I've been a billionaire. I've been a leader of armies and countries and nations, maybe in previous lives. Who knows? I don't care about that.
Right.
For me, it's about, what's this great secret? What's this great key to liberation? What's this 13th number? I must know about it. I must become it almost. Before I was aware of it, it was because it's 7th house. It is projecting my savior onto others.
Wow. That's a lot to come to terms with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Your relation, plus I've got Neptune in Scorpio. Okay, so
you're I would characterize you generally as a Venusian person. So 7th house for you is like that is the bread and butter. So to work.
So relationships, yes.
Cool.
The pattern is sort of falling head over heels, thinking that this is the one. This is not just the one, but the one. Right?
That Rahu, right? You want it to be the one so bad. You want it to
be. I know you are. And then only to be heartbroken or so drained dry of my own life essence,
Yeah.
So there's been that. Luckily I have such a strong 10th house Ophiuchian husband that it's not been like, I could totally like exploit that about you,
right?
But I'm just gonna ask you the hard questions.
Sure. That's what Scorpios all have to do. They all have to hold back. They have to hold back and learn to use the claws like for surgeries, to get out the unwanted bits, to just let's get that and put it over here. Don't injure everyone you see, but just it's a learning curve. Yeah.
So what I have come to find is that paradoxically, the highest expression of this is the savior within yourself. Right?
That's it. If
you can find that,
in a way, what do you mean by savior? Can you expand on that? Because that to some people that's going to mean like that's going to have one set of connotations,
right? So do we find ourselves constantly searching out there for the thing that makes us whole, the thing that makes us complete, the thing that excites us, the thing that turns us on, the thing that makes us laugh, the thing that whatever? We're constantly searching for those things. And for the 7th house, Rahu and Ophiuchus, the divinity is out there. The all-knowing, the divinity, the source, the God, the savior, whatever you want to call that, whatever that is to you, okay? Because I'm not saying it's yours has to be mine and vice versa, but I'm saying that connection is out there automatically with 7th house Ophiuchus.
It is.
And you have to go get it. You have to go get it with Rahu there.
Right.
But it's not actually out there, because any single rabbit hole that you're driven to go down in the esoteric field will always point you back to right there, to the void, to here and here. It points to those two things, and that's all that matters.
That's it.
So it's the relationship. It's the relationship between the head and the heart where I find my true connection to source.
That's
not through any relationship.
That's it, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere you look. The kingdom of heaven is within. It's even in the most mainstream and it's everywhere. It's everywhere if you look for it. And I feel like you've taken that kernel that people are looking for, and kind of framed it in neon and gone, hey, I
I
found
put a
it.
big snake mouth on the cover.
I put a big snake on it for you if you like snakes. No, I feel like you've really very fearlessly brought this forward and illustrated it in an important and beautiful way. And I want to thank you. I want to encourage everyone to read this book. We'll have links and all of that, the good links to your site. What is there? There's an EPUB and Amazon
so
Kindle, and you have
so
audio.
if we go to drdani.com, the 3 different formats are there. You can get PDF, you can get EPUB, whatever works for you. If you screw up and get the wrong one, just let me know. I can send you the right one. But the audio book, because it's such a big file, I had to put it somewhere else, my website. And Gumroad will host it for, they take a little bit off the top if you put your work up there. And so my website will link to the Gumroad if you want to get that. And then the print version. So this is just sort of a comedy of errors with trying to work with different publishing companies as a self-publisher. I get a little oogified when I think of Amazon. And so I was like, Amazon could be shady. They can all be shady. And so it was recommended to me to go with another company called Ingram Spark, who, interestingly, I've been trying to speak to for 3 weeks. And while we were talking, they called me. But I didn't get off the phone. I was like, no, it wasn't meant to be, obviously. Oh, man. I was kind of in a mood where I wanted to take everything down from them because they're not helpful. They don't cater to amateurs. Okay. So if you walk in there thinking they're going to hold your hand and help you, go take a walk, because they won't. So I went ahead and I think you can get the e-version out there through KDP, because they also sell to Amazon, but Barnes and Nobles and all of that. I've been trying to get a print book out through them. No response. 2 days ago, I signed up with Amazon, and they are already sending a proof to me.
I see.
So it's that quick.
Sure.
So it's kind of that lesson is, what do we exchange for convenience?
Well, no, I mean, there's a lot of lessons in there, and I want to congratulate you on trying to support the little guy. But I mean, if you had the best result with Big Corp, I run with it. I don't know. That's just a personal thing. You tried. I may
do both. I mean, I might call them back and see, if there is some way that they can help me, because I sent them 2 emails saying, forget it, take everything down. When I realized after I did that, I figured out what my error was. I mean, it's just so comical and so frustrating. But the way I envision it is that if you're waiting for the print book, and it's a pretty good price. Like I'm not going to make $1 zillion off this book. There's no way. But buy 2, because you're going to want to keep one for yourself as your resource guide for your Ophiuchus, but you're going to want to lend it or donate it or share it, because it's like, here, you got to read it. You got to understand this. Yeah. At least that's my hope.
No, I think you hit it. I think you hit it on the head. I think let's see, where am I? I'm 1 skim and then a deep skim, and then I'm on chapter 4. We're just reading it start to finish. But I'm taking a really relaxed approach, because I'm part of a book club, and we're actually going to get into this on a chapter by chapter and then discuss it. So I'm not trying to get to the end, but that's just my journey.
I can never read the end of a book.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate the end of books. So when I get to the last 3 pages, I just don't read it.
Wow.
It's this weird thing I do.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, do you watch the credits of movies?
Not to the end. Usually.
All right. Hey, that's cool.
Unless I know there's a little trailer at the end that I need to watch, or some blooper reel. I'll wait for that.
Yeah.
I'll wait for that.
Sure. Well, all right. This feels like a pretty good place to kind of wind it down. I think we've been on about a good dialogue length time. Is there anything you want to say in closing, in goodbye to the people for now?
No, just thanks for listening. We are in an open enrollment period for Stellar Foundation. So if you want to jump in, we're starting fresh with new office hours and all that on May 12th. So we have about 2 weeks before we're going to get cracking again. And I'm really excited because the inaugural group that started in January have gone through the process. They have gone through that cosmic healer's journey. And really the transformation comes in those group sessions that we have. And so they're going to be joining us. They're going to be helping us with the new group. So
wow.
I hope we get some more people on board for round 2. It should be
That's
great.
big. Wow. That's so cool. I love everything.
And of course you get a free copy of the book. Like you get a PDF version of the book because it's like a textbook.
It's like
it's kind of like,
it's
kind of the foundation for what we're doing, kind of understanding Ophiuchus and the 13th sign, what it means in the greater journey of the overall zodiac. But not only that, we talk about houses, we talk about how to counsel people. You get the full technical modules on, how to read a chart and what to do with that, as well as predictive techniques. We go into that a little bit too. And then, of course, Michael's there helping us with the Prometheus if anybody has any issues, which I'm so thankful for.
That's true. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Cool. And then, of course, Rio is part of that too. She's kind of help cheering people on. And of course, Lori is as well. Yeah. So we have a team of people. Yeah. I think it's a nice environment. It's a wonderful group. And we're basically between us in the group. It's a learning process for me too, to, learn to bring this knowledge in a way that is easier to be consumed in a safe way. The last class, Michael, I know you weren't there for that one, but wow, what a powerful class, because we really dove into Ophiuchus and we integrated it, and a lot of good stuff came up. There were tears, there was laughter. I mean, it was really, really beautiful. So.
It is. It's a full scale journey when you start to integrate this kind of astrology, and it's not just like a academic edition where you're increasing your knowledge base by things you didn't know before, but it's a soul journey. It's an alignment. It's truing up and a coming home.
Changes everything.
It changes everything at the root. It changes everything at the base systemically, and it is moving. If you're doing it right, there will be tears. It's moving. Yeah, and that's a good human journey for you.
Yep.
So, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely. Yeah, if you want me to come to your book club, I'm happy to do that.
Oh yeah. They'll hear it here, and I'll make sure that if they don't watch this video to the end, that they'll know it. We'd love to have you as a guest, and like maybe once we've gotten into it a little, then maybe have you on, maybe if you were willing to even do 2, like one near the beginning and then one at the end.
Okay.
Could I ask you for a twofer?
Sure.
Am I putting you on the spot?
Of course. No, I'm happy to help you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. That would really be amazing of you. Thank you so much for your generosity.
Thank you for having me.